phone vibrated in his trembling hand, just as the elevator doors closed, trapping him between regret and reality, because the message he had sent seconds ago was already delivered, already read, and already capable of destroying the fragile life he had rebuilt for himself and his daughter. Sweat gathered at the back of his neck as the weight of one careless sentence pressed down on his chest, and in that silent elevator, he understood how a single mistake could unravel years of sacrifice. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet strength of people trying to do better, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to channel name. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them. He had never planned to be a single father, and he had never planned to fall apart so completely before learning how to stand again. Life had done that for him, stripping away comfort, certainty, and the person he thought would always be by his side, leaving him alone with a small child who depended on him for everything. Every morning began before sunrise, with tired eyes and aching bones, packing lunches, tying shoelaces, and whispering promises he was not always sure he could keep. He carried guilt like an extra shadow, wondering if he was enough, wondering if his daughter could sense how often he felt like he was failing. Work was not just a job to him, it was survival, rent paid on time, groceries in the fridge, and a chance to give his child a future that looked nothing like the chaos of their past. His boss was everything he was not allowed to want, confident, composed, admired by everyone in the office, and somehow warm in a way that made even the harshest deadlines feel manageable. She had hired him when his resume showed gaps filled with explanations no employer liked to read, and she had trusted him when others would have looked away. Her presence in meetings steadied him. Her approval mattered more than he wanted to admit, and somewhere between late nights and shared responsibilities, his respect quietly turned into something more dangerous. He knew better than to let his thoughts wander, knew better than to mix admiration with attraction, especially when his entire world depended on professionalism and restraint. That morning had been harder than most. His daughter had woken from a nightmare, clinging to him with shaking hands, asking questions he could not answer about why some people leave and never come back. He had held her until she fell asleep again, then rushed through the rest of the morning with his heart still heavy. At work, pressure mounted as deadlines closed in, and his boss moved through the office with focused energy, solving problems with a calm strength that made his chest tighten. During a brief pause, overwhelmed and exhausted, he reached for his phone, intending to text the one friend who knew everything about his messy life, the one safe place where he could vent without consequence. His fingers moved faster than his thoughts, and the words left his phone before caution could catch them. The realization hit him instantly, like stepping off a ledge and realizing there was no ground beneath his feet. The message was not sitting in his friend's chat window, it was sitting in hers. His boss, the woman who held his career in her hands. Panic surged through him as every possible outcome played in his mind, each worse than the last. He imagined disappointment, awkwardness, termination, humiliation, and the crushing task of explaining to his daughter why everything they depended on was suddenly gone. He could not breathe properly, could not focus, could not undo what had already been done. The hours that followed stretched into something unbearable. Every notification made his heart race. Every footstep near his desk felt like judgment approaching. He tried to work, tried to act normal, but fear leaked into every thought. He replayed the message again and again, wishing he could erase it from existence, wishing he had been stronger, quieter, more careful. He thought about how hard he had worked to earn trust, how fragile that trust was, and how quickly it could shatter. More than anything, he thought about his daughter and the promise he had made to always protect her, even from his own mistakes. When the meeting request finally came, his hands shook as he stood up. The walk to her office felt longer than it ever had before, each step heavy with anticipation. He expected coldness, professionalism turned sharp, maybe even anger. What he found instead was something far more complicated. His boss looked at him not with judgment, but with a quiet seriousness that acknowledged both the mistake and the human behind it. The moment stretched, and in that silence, he realized how rarely anyone had truly seen him beyond his role as an employee or a struggling parent. What followed was not easy, and it was not instantly comforting. There was acknowledgement of boundaries, of professionalism, of the importance of respect in the workplace. But there was also understanding. She had seen his dedication, his exhaustion, the way he rushed out every day to pick up his child, the way he carried responsibility like armor. She recognized the message for what it was, not an intention, not an action, but a human thought sent to the wrong place at the worst possible time. She did not dismiss the seriousness of it, but she also did not reduce him to that single moment. For the first time in a long while, he felt something loosen inside him. Shame did not disappear, but it softened. Fear did not vanish, but it stopped controlling his breath. He left the office still embarrassed, still aware of the line he had crossed, but also grateful in a way that surprised him. He had been given a second chance, not just professionally, but emotionally. It forced him to look at himself more honestly, to recognize how loneliness had crept into his life, how admiration had quietly turned into longing because he had not allowed himself space to heal. The weeks that followed became a turning point. He poured himself into work with renewed focus, not from fear, but from gratitude. He rebuilt boundaries with care and intention, reminding himself why they mattered. At home, he became more present, listening more closely to his daughter, noticing the small ways she mirrored his emotions. He realized that strength was not about never making mistakes, but about owning them, learning from them, and choosing to grow instead of hide. Slowly, life began to feel steadier. The office returned to its rhythm, the awkwardness faded, and mutual respect settled back into place. His boss continued to lead with fairness and clarity, and he continued to show up with commitment and integrity. The incident became a quiet lesson etched into his memory, a reminder of how fragile moments can be and how powerful compassion is when it meets accountability. He learned that being seen, truly seen, was both terrifying and healing. At home, his daughter laughed more, slept better, and began to trust that the world was not always falling apart. He found himself smiling at small victories, like a good grade on a spelling test or a shared meal after a long day. He stopped measuring his worth by perfection and started measuring it by effort, love, and resilience. The loneliness did not disappear overnight, but it no longer felt like a void. It felt like space that could one day be filled with something healthy and real. As time passed, he understood that the message he had sent by mistake had forced him to confront truths he had been avoiding. It exposed his vulnerability, his need for connection, and his fear of failure. But it also revealed the power of empathy and the importance of second chances. He had been reminded that people are more than their worst moments, and that sometimes grace arrives when you least expect it. If this story touched your heart, if it made you feel something real, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to channel name. Your engagement helps these stories reach others who might need hope today. Before this story ends, I want to ask you to comment below and share your thoughts, because your voice matters and your kindness can inspire someone else. In the end, he tucked his daughter into bed, kissed her forehead, and sat quietly for a moment, listening to her steady breathing. The fear that once ruled him no longer had the same power. He was still learning, still imperfect, but he was moving forward with honesty and courage. One accidental message had nearly broken him, but compassion had rebuilt him stronger, reminding him that life does not end at a mistake, and that sometimes the most human moments lead us back to ourselves.